the objective side, I guess you would say. So, can teachers actually teach? So, in order to do that, I think they need to be first knowledgeable in the subject that they're teaching, to be able to know the ins and outs, be able to explain, I don't know, any questions that students might have. And they need to be able to share that knowledge with students and to be able to bridge the gap between the knowledge and the students and help students to lead students to the new knowledge and help them to make connections. And they do this by using effective teaching methods that will actually get students to be engaged in the material and actually understand and comprehend it. And they also need to be able to control the classroom environment.
So this is essentially saying now, like with the technical aspects of it, I mean, do you think that this idea might be too technical? Is there such a thing as over-educating a teacher?
I think that every teacher, should have, a solid foundation. Every teacher should be able to do all of these things, but I don't know if that's necessarily everything that goes into being a good teacher.
Like hands-on or like just lecturing them, like are you saying like the teacher needs to continuously like change up the schedule or like try new things, or should you just follow the books?
Yeah. Well-prepared teachers are going to use the technical aspects of it, and they sort of have to teach within some of the confines that they're set in, with whether it be standardized testing or the curriculum of the school itself that they don't get to set, the culture of the school itself. But I think, I don't know, teachers are sort of like, they have their own sort of espionage in that way. They're maybe like almost undercover, like not necessarily that they have a hidden agenda, but that they're using what's sort of set for them to reach their students in the best way.
Just looking at this, it kind of makes teaching look almost like robotic. If there's A, then B. If there's B, or if there's C, then D. Like there's no nuance to it. There's no room to address like the needs of specific settings or specific students. It seems more just very clear cut and objective.
Alright, so this category is about care-based learning and teaching. So essentially some themes are that we need like good lecturers who actually know, like they're knowledgeable on the topic. Interested teachers, definitely. They shouldn't just go into teaching because they're, for whatever reason they may have. They should go into it because they actually love to teach what they are teaching. So we shouldn't assign someone an interest in history, for example, to a math class. Giving extra help to students, for example, like for children with needs, I would say that we need to definitely accommodate them, make sure that they get what they need. Not giving up on students. Some students may seem like they have like lack of interest or something. They may just seem like they're messing around with the teacher, but I think that a real good teacher would decide not to give up on them. They would try to engage them, encourage them to actually follow through with the material and actually help them learn. And then lastly, keeping a positive learning environment, keeping the classroom exciting, posting the children's work on the wall, just making sure that it's not dull in any way.
If I thought about myself going into a teaching job, that'd be the number one thing that I'd be worried about, is at some point like I'm going to come in and not be interested in teaching.
Yeah. I guess, yeah, I mean,
I think something to add to this is like the care-based side of teaching moves away from like the academic side, like that's kind of like separate. Like so teachers who care about like the development of like the whole person is a term we use a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Caring about them, like how their life is outside of school, outside of the classroom setting, like their family life, just everything outside of school, and for teachers to have like a genuine care for that as well as their academic knowledge.
engaged pedagogy. The first part here is a quote from the article by Bell Hooks, which essentially that engaged pedagogy, a classroom where that's used is progressive and holistic, focused on the progress of the student, always learning something, always moving forward, and that they're being educated holistically, by body, mind, and spirit. A hands-on interactive classroom. That's another way to keep classrooms exciting or keep students interested, like we were talking about with the care-based learning. So that incorporates like a lot of projects and engaging with different types of learners, people that are more kinesthetic, have more activities where there's movement involved, building things, and then an interactive classroom. Today, in a lot of education, interactive is thought of as incorporating a lot of technology, which some can be helpful, but I think if you use too much, then it can dilute from the learning or sort of affect it in a way that's not positive. So I think interactive is collaborative as well as just getting students to work together and teachers to work with the students. And of course, teachers taking interest in their students and getting to know them, that's a part of engaged pedagogy. And then it also comes along with sharing and vulnerability in a classroom, teacher not being afraid to share from their own personal experience and to be vulnerable, to encourage their students to do the same. That's how they grow connections and grow closer as people within a classroom. And I think that stimulates learning and it contributes to more learning. But it's always important to connect not only what is learned in the classroom, but what is shared in the classroom to the life experiences of the students themselves. So if a teacher shares a personal experience, they should connect it to how it'll, how the lesson to be learned and how it would help the students. I think the reasons it's important they're spelled out pretty clearly. I think this incorporates a lot of what answers or attempts to answer our question: what is the most effective type of teaching for student learning? It's where students are engaged, connections are made, classes are hands-on interactive, and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I completely agree. I feel like the students have to really relate to the topic, or they have to feel engaged. Otherwise, from personal experience, it's difficult to follow along or to even find the will to learn.
Yeah, I think like this type of teaching just really draws students into learning. It just makes them like immersed in the whole thing.
So now that we've talked about our three different themes, we sort of have to come to a conclusion.
So I don't know, it looks like all three of these things touch on a different aspect of teaching. So our first one is more on the objective side, and then our second one is more on the subjective intangibles of teaching. And our last one kind of, I don't know, it just draws the students into the whole thing. So I think, I don't know, it may not necessarily be that there's one solution to answer, like what makes a good teacher. So it could probably be like, I guess an ideal teacher would be well prepared, would care for the students, and would use engaged pedagogy in their classroom.
Yeah, there's no one answer to this question, and I like that about it, because if we're to believe that teaching is the most dynamic job, the most interesting job that there is, then there's no one way to do it. So you point out the good thing, like the different sides of things. So you've got very objective, very subjective, and this is almost the emotional side of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're all three key categories. Of course, that care-based learning is a little bit less realistic than the others. I still feel like that is what makes the ideal teacher or teaching environment.
Yeah, I don't think you could be a good teacher if you neglected any one of these three.
I agree.
You have to have all three.
Yeah. So the answer is there's not one answer.
Yay.
I'm a teacher. This is what I do.